The story of 3 pigs. On the edge of the woods in a small house lived 3 little pigs and their mother. The years passed by and the little house became too small for Frank, Joey and Matty. "My dear children, soon there will be no room in this house for all of us," said Mama Pig. "You are all grown up, and now is the time for you to out in the world and build your own lives," explained Mama. Although they were sad, Joey, Frank and Matty agreed with Mama Pig. All 3 sons hugged her goodbye and left to venture out into the big world. They were walking for a long time until they approached a meadow that was full of flowers and chirping birds and playful animals. Matty said, "I think we found our new home." "You're right. This is a perfect place for us to live," exclaimed Joey, and he and Matty went off to play in the beautiful meadow. Frank agreed with his brothers, and even though he was very tired, he decided to start working right away to build his new house. As the days passed by, Frank was working hard on building his house made from solid bricks. Meanwhile, Matty and Joey were playing and having fun in the meadow, watching clouds and chasing butterflies. When Frank's home was finished, Matty and Joey decided to build their own houses before the weather turned colder. It had taken many weeks for Frank to build his house. Matty and Joey thought that was too hard, so Matty built his house from hay and straw, while Joey used wood from nearby trees to build his home. Both houses were built in one day, and while they were very pretty, they were not as strong as Frank's brick house. Meanwhile, a big bad wolf had entered the northern part of the meadow, and he started spying on the 3 little pigs from his hiding place. It had been a long time since the big bad wolf had eaten a good dinner. His stomach rumbled so loud that the noise scared off all the birds in the meadow. All at once the meadow grew eerily silent. Matty and Joey were lying on the grass napping when the big bad wolf jumped out of the forest and started running toward the sleeping pigs howling in hunger. Startled by the noise, Matty and Joey jumped up from their nap and ran to their homes. Matty locked the door of his hay house and hid behind a table in fear. The big bad wolf stood in front of the door, howling to be let inside. Finally, he huffed and puffed with all the strength he had. With the powerful breath, the hay house shattered into a million pieces of hay and straw. Terrified Matty ran for his life. He reached the wooden doors of Joey's house, and they both locked themselves inside. The 2 scared brothers hid inside the house and whimpered. "We are doomed," Joey murmured. "Maybe he will not be able to destroy this house," said Matty. The big bad wolf approached the doors of the wooden house and demanded to be let in. The pigs were too terrified to respond, and their silence angered the big bad wolf. So with even more power, he blew as hard as he could. The wooden house trembled and many planks flew off, but the house was still standing. The big bad wolf chuckled. "Silly pigs and their stick house." A second time he blew as hard as he could, and the wooden house exploded into 1,000 pieces of wood. The 2 terrified pigs ran for their lives to Frank's house. Frank, who was watching everything through the window of his house, saw his brothers running to him, so he opened his doors as fast as he could. The big bad wolf, feeling exceptionally confident, strolled toward Frank's house. "Now I have all 3 pigs in the one place," exclaimed the big bad wolf. "Only one more house to blow down, and I will have a very tasty 3-course dinner." Frank locked the door and tried to calm his brothers down. "You are safe here," he said. But Matty and Joy were paralyzed with the fear because they thought that Frank's home would be soon nothing but a pile of rubble. "You don't know his power. He destroyed our houses in seconds," cried Joy. "We are doomed! Doomed!" shouted Matty. The big bad wolf arrived at Frank's brick house and demanded that the three little pigs come out of their house. "We are not coming out. In this house we will stay," shouted Frank. This made the big bad wolf furious. How dare the three little pigs not give up? Didn't they see what he had done to the other two homes? So, with all his might, the big bad wolf took a deep breath and blew with a great force. But the brick house did not move. "This house is a bit stronger," he said. So he took a deeper breath and blew again. But the house still stood, and he became very angry. "How's that possible?" he shouted. For a third time the big bad wolf huffed and puffed. But again Frank's brick house stood its ground even against such mighty power. He tried a fourth time, a fifth, sixth, and seventh time, but the little brick house stood strong against the ferocious wind. By this time the big bad wolf was tired and exhausted. "I cannot blow down the walls of this house. I need to be more clever," he thought. The big bad wolf peered into the window and said, "You have won, little pigs. Perhaps now we can be friends. I do not want to hurt you. I only want to help you. As a proof of my friendship, I will show you a place where delicious juicy turnips grow. We can meet there tomorrow." Frank asked where this place of delicious turnips was located. The big bad wolf described the location in the south meadow, and they both agreed to meet at the spot at 7 o'clock in the morning the next day. The big bad wolf returned to the forest to rest, satisfied that his crafty plan would work. He would finally get those little pigs. However, Frank didn't trust him and sensed a trap. He decided to outsmart the big bad wolf. The next day the three brothers went to the described place at 5 o'clock in the morning instead of 7 o'clock. They gathered a basket full of delicious turnips and came home before the big bad wolf showed up. When the big bad wolf arrived at the turnip field at 7 o'clock, he rubbed his eyes in amazement. There were no turnips left and no pigs in sight. "Ah, they're smarter than I thought. I have to think of a new plan." And at once he strolled to Frank's house. When he reached Frank's place, he asked why the pigs did not come to the field at the right time. "We could not sleep because of rumbling in our tummies, so we got up early this morning and picked all the turnips," explained Joy. "We've just cooked them, and now it's time for breakfast," shouted Frank cheerfully. "Wow, you were right. These turnips are really delicious. Thank you so much," added Matty. The big bad wolf became very angry. He had not eaten in many days, and now all the turnips were gone. Those pigs had outsmarted him, and the big bad wolf was starving while they were eating his breakfast turnips. So he quickly devised another plan. "Oh, I'm so happy you are enjoying those turnips," he said in a deceitful voice. "But I know something that you will find even more delicious. I'll tell you where an apple tree grows that produces the biggest, reddest, and sweetest apples in the entire world. You will never eat another turnip again after tasting these apples," said the big bad wolf. He pointed to a place in the west meadow and told the pigs he would meet them at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. The next day at 4 o'clock in the morning, Frank quietly left the house. When he got to the apple tree, he realized that the big bad wolf was telling the truth. The apple tree was full of apples that looked and smelled delicious. They were the biggest apples he had ever seen. Frank climbed the tree and began to pluck the apples one by one. Suddenly he spotted the big bad wolf. It was too late to escape. This time he outsmarted me, thought Frank. Since Frank had no chance to escape, he came up with a plan. He joyfully greeted the big bad wolf. "How do you like the apples?" asked the big bad wolf. "Oh, they are delicious, just like you said," said Frank. "Here, try one for yourself." He threw an apple far over the wolf's head. When the big bad wolf ran to fetch the apple, Frank jumped down from the tree and raced to his house as fast as he could. By the time the big bad wolf realized what had happened, Frank was already too far away, and he could not catch him. He threw the apple down and howled, "That's enough! I'll show you who rules this forest!" He ran to the front of Frank's house, but the walls and the doors were too strong to knock down, so he decided to climb down the chimney. When Matty, Frank and Joy saw the big bad wolf getting on the roof, they quickly lit a fire in the fireplace. "Come on down, big bad wolf, we are here all alone," shouted Matty. Frank added, "A warm welcome is waiting for you." And the three little pigs burst into laughter. While the big bad wolf was climbing down the chimney, he suddenly felt hot. Really hot. He became unbearably hot and finally realized his mistake. His own tail was burning like a hot dog on the grill. The big bad wolf jumped out of the chimney like a firecracker and ran into the woods, howling with his tail, leaving a trail of smoke for all to see. He certainly did not want to deal with pigs anymore, and he even made a promise that from now on he was only going to eat fruits and vegetables. After this, the three little pigs lived in peace in the meadow with the other animals of the forest. Matty and Joy listened to Frank's advice and built solid brick houses. As for the big bad wolf, he never bothered the three little pigs again. In fact, he became an honest and respected farmer, growing organic turnips and apples, and they are delicious.